Here we are again.
Round two once again.
Yeah, round two. So we were sitting here in this exact same spots last week, and you're explaining about your first encounters with the metaphysical world, and just all these experiences from birth that you had, and we made it to your first Sasquatch encounters in the woodlands.
In the
The
Wilmore.
Wilmore. Yeah,
Nordegg.
Nordegg. And then you went into your story about what was that story where we ended on?
Yeah, I think we ended when I just started working with ayahuasca.
Right.
I got my first, I think I got my first ayahuasca ceremony in there.
Do you want to hear the end
Nope,
of just like what you were
nope.
talking about?
I know exactly where I was.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it took a good amount. Had a lot of momentum when I left off. We'll try to pick that up here
Yeah.
momentarily to see if I can just carry that on through.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, so kind of went through my first initial stages of experiences, and then yeah, I was just really hungry on the inside to find out more answers about Sasquatch. Couldn't get them out of my mind. Kept coming into my field all the time, and
Yeah.
literally it was all I could think about, like for a good part of my life, and just really wanted some answers. I wasn't satisfied
Yeah, no doubt.
with mainstream. I knew the you know, indigenous people had their understandings, but I didn't really have any allies with them at that point.
And
And
how old were you at this point?
oh, when did I go to Peru? 39 now. It's probably like later in my 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had yeah, I don't remember the exact year, but it was a good while ago, 10 years ago or so.
Okay.
And yeah, I was heading there to see if I could find out some more answers, and also to explore the plant medicines that I hadn't experienced before ayahuasca. So I went to Peru to just learn and explore consciousness. I was already deep diving into the self and had a lot of external experiences as I'd already shared, and was just trying to yeah, get some answers and some better understanding what life was all about. And
Yeah.
you know heard a lot about the psychedelics, and I was really curious about the spirit world and glimpsing in and out of there just in my regular life and meditations and stuff. I was really hoping that I would find some answers about the Sasquatch down there.
Hmm.
So yeah, I never shared these stories for quite a while, maybe with just a few people, because it took so long to process them and just to like even navigate what one one's mind can come up with and stuff. But really, yeah, just trusting in the process and trusting in my experiences, and really trying to figure out what had happened. So explained. I guess I may as well start right where we left off.
Yeah.
I was explaining my first experience, way up, way down.
I just want to double check here.
Yep, yep. So, yeah, my first my first experience, as I was saying, I got there and it was kind of culture shock, and I don't know, within a number of days, I was I was way down the Amazon in this little village, and I had my opportunity to have the first ayahuasca ceremony, very small and intimate, with really amazing medicine man who grew up. It was grandfather to him, and he was teaching his boy, and it was a beautiful setting. There was maybe like 5 of us in the ceremony, including him and his son. And I explained my first ceremony on the last end of the last one, where I got basically, once it really started kicking in, I was laid out on the ground. I couldn't move, and I had like a pretty large dose. I really wanted to
Right.
have a good experience,
Yeah.
and boy, did it ever come. I was flapped into the floppy disk and
Right.
basically
Yeah.
plugged into the mainframe and went through a whole. There was a whole wall of there was a big wall, and it was a big computer board, and boom, I went in and I just went down every channel, and kind of like a neuron of the whole computer system, and the whole ceremony was all technology.
Wow.
Taught me, it was showing me that everything is some sort of this is all some sort of computer technology. I don't know if computer is the right word, but it was all a technology,
Yeah.
and that we're living in some sort of a matrix. And yeah, somehow I still don't really understand, but it continues to show me that to this day.
Mm.
Ayahuasca. So that was super mind blowing to me, because
Yeah, I bet.
just coming off of like never experiencing the psychedelics, and then to be just in this whole technology world,
Yeah.
and it was like, wow, I just couldn't believe it. And I remember being on the ground, just laid out, couldn't move, and purging and stuff, and just calling out to the shaman for some help, you
Yeah.
know. I just couldn't move. I was like, man, um, Luco was his name. Luco. And he'd come over and he'd, you know, sing some Ikoros to me, and
Mm-hmm.
blow some Apache on me, and help me through some of it. And so that was a lot to process that first night, and I was there for a while, like 6 weeks or so, and I ended up, yeah, I had a day or so to process, and then the next day we dove into it again, and it was time for ceremony again, and I was a little, it was terrifying, like full on terrifying, like never experiencing these realms before in this way, and
Right.
with the powerful medicine in the jungle, and really, it was really powerful medicine. So second ceremony, you know, I have it written down, but it was also a very incredible ceremony. It didn't take me down the technology road.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot more into the spirit realm, and I could feel the different spirits coming and going, and they'd come into the field, and you know, your whole body would move. And I was observing different spirits and having a really incredible, also mind blowing experience. Laid out again, couldn't move, and ceremony two, when I called out to the Sasquatch, just I already had a strong spiritual connection to them. I just called out to them, and Sasquatch appeared in that ceremony, and literally one just appeared in front of me and
Yeah.
just observed me, and then disappeared.
Wow.
And that was it. Nothing was said. There was no communication. There was nothing. But I was learning a lot from the medicine about everything else, that it was showing me that day, and it was a kind of a little introduction to them. They had a really good visual, and then my third ceremony was when Mother Ayahuasca came to me. And my third ceremony, basically, she came to me pretty early on in the ceremony, and she sat with me all night, and she just wrapped me in her field. And I was having a lot of, the purging was really challenging for me, and I wasn't enjoying the vomiting and stuff. And I just had a beautiful download from Mother Ayahuasca. We had like a 3 hour conversation,
Wow.
and it was just her. There was no other spirits on this. Yeah, she just would wrap me in her field, and it was a full on conversation with her. Like, yeah, explaining to me a lot about my life, and my connection to the earth, and also that she had told me that she'd been calling me for many years,
Mm.
and I had that call for many years to come. And at one point, she held up a card,
Yeah.
and and this card, and she asked me. She held up this card and said, "Do you want to see your life? Do you want to see see your life?" And I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
I just said no. I said I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, that I'm assuming would have been like probably a life review of
Right.
my physical life at that point. Keep in mind this was my third experience ever with psychedelics, and I just wasn't ready to dive that deep quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so compassionate. She said, you will return, and we have lots of time. Take your time. So we had a beautiful experience on my third ceremony, and yeah, it was just incredible. We just went through all kinds of stuff, and I can't exactly remember. It was very, I'm sure, closer to the experience. I would have had a lot more to say about it, but it was really mind blowing. So yeah, at the end of that ceremony, I was able to share that story as well. We sit after in the maloka, and the medicine man leaves, and everybody kind of opens up and just shares their experiences for like an hour or so, and it's just really awesome. And then yeah, I think we were like doing a day on, and then we do a day off, and then go back to day 3. And with this, I was, you know, out in the jungle in the days, exploring and fishing, and
You go fishing in between?
yeah, yeah, I
Nice.
brought my fishing gear down, and me and Holke, the son of Luco, we were like brothers. We couldn't speak a word of English, but we just like
Yeah.
we were soul brothers. We would talk to each other in our own languages and just communicate,
Yeah.
and we would go fishing. We rented a boat from one of the neighbors, a peke peke, and we would go here and there and down the little channels. And I think around then I actually inquired about getting a boat. I wanted to buy one, and they said, "Okay, great." Didn't really know what to think. I thought they would just go to one of the neighbors and see if someone had a boat for
Yeah.
sale.
Yeah.
And then, anyways, so I'll get into my fourth ceremony, and then I can share a little bit about the hunting and fishing adventures we went on. And then, so my fourth ceremony there, I had opportunities. I think I was sharing before, but to talk to the facilitators about it, and the medicine man about the Sasquatch. And they knew of the hairy folk down there, and they have their own hairy folk that live down there, and along with many other interdimensional metaphysical beings that roam in the astral worlds there, and in the jungles. So fourth ceremony came on, and we all were down and in the on our mats, and I drank a pretty heavy dose again, and
Yeah.
I just got blasted into the world of ayahuasca. And this ceremony was a little more challenging for me. I was experiencing a lot of different spirits,
Mm.
and I what felt like 100 spirits were surrounding me. I was laying on the ground, and they were all bent over me, looking at me and poking me and prodding me, and all different forms of beings. And it was really uncomfortable for me. They were like poking me and stuff, and I was just laying there, and I didn't have much control over what was going on, and they were annoying me,
Yeah.
and I was uncomfortable as they were poking me. I could like feel them poking me, and one poked me like right in the butt, like right, like kind of right where I didn't like it, eh?
Yeah.
And I and at that moment, this was so life changing for me. In that moment, I just called out to my Sasquatch,
Yeah.
to the Sasquatch, the one I always felt real connection to. I felt this big male that I experienced in the Wilmore, and really felt his presence with me. And I just called out to him, and literally instantaneously,
Yeah.
the this is where I really learned of the shamanic powers of the Sasquatch and how much presence they hold in the spiritual world. Instantaneously at that moment, Sasquatch appeared above me. This big male Sasquatch appeared above me. I could just, your visuals are so full on. There was a
Mm.
huge 10-foot Sasquatch with massive broad shoulders. He just stood above me as my guardian, and those spirits vanished. Boom, they were gone. And they completely took over the ceremony. And I was now in the world of the Sasquatch.
Wow.
And it sounds to some people who maybe have not experienced experiences like this, it might sound like it might sound woo woo, and it might sound like I created this in my mind. But when you really listen to my whole life story, this is just a little piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I just went and drank ayahuasca and had this epiphany that I was part of the Sasquatch world. They had been there way before this, and I was I was looking for answers, and I went there looking for them. Where one also might say, you might have created this, when really this this happened. This 10-foot Sasquatch stood above me, and all the other spirits vanished. Which in just in that, just how they dominated the spiritual world,
Yeah.
and his spiritual presence was so powerful. And he blasted me into the meadow where I took that journey up into the cowlick the
Oh.
previous years,
Yeah.
when I did that long journey that I
Yeah.
explained in the last podcast. And when I had found that beautiful meadow to camp in, and where that starship floated over the meadow.
Right.
And what had happened was, I was sitting, I was back in that I was back in that meadow at my sacred fire in my camp, and I was sitting beside his wife and his daughter and his son.
Mm.
So now I'm in the middle of this ceremony, and I'm sitting beside the fire. Right across from the fire is this beautiful female Sasquatch, and her boy, also the one above me. This was his family. This was his wife and child.
Wow.
And at this point now, I had a full on dialogue going on for,
Mm.
I'm assuming, a couple hours
Wow.
with this Sasquatch. And most of the communication was happening with the female Sasquatch. And he was above me, just standing there, this massive presence, just holding space, holding the container. And I started like getting downloads and full on telepathy with this female Sasquatch, who started explaining things to me, and started explaining my life and my connection with them. And I guess, where's the best place to start here in this story? So at this point, I recognized that this main Sasquatch standing above me was my guide. This is a male Sasquatch who's been with me since birth. And he they they showed me, I guess they brought me back to the orbs.
Hmm.
And those orbs at the moment, and for many years, I had no, actually until this ceremony, I didn't know who or what they were. But this was him and those orbs coming to me as a child. And as he's always walked with me, and he, you know, connected spiritually to them, he came in orb form, and this feeling of family was there. And he's my brother, the Sasquatch. So they started showing me visions of my life, and they started showing me my life through their eyes. And all these experiences that I had with them, I observed myself through them as they're
Oh yeah.
in the forest watching me and interacting with me, and I'm seeing them. Like I'm seeing me through their eyes. It was so
Mm-hmm.
incredible. And through all these different experiences in the Rockies and other, I'm sure other places, and yeah, just showing me, yeah, showing me the magic that they have, like the power and the presence that they have in these experiences. And so I seen even more experiences than I knew what were Sasquatch experiences. They are always watching me, and they always had their eyes on me in the forest. So and I remember these places that they showed me. I'm on the riverbank sitting in a rock bluff. Waiting for elk to come down to the river, and I'm seeing myself through the eyes of spirit, through the eyes of them. And they started to explain these things to me, which was so mind blowing. And it took me probably 2 or 3 years before I really even shared this with anybody. I might have shared it with my mom because it was so much for me to wrap my head around. I couldn't accept it really. I just like couldn't really fathom what they were telling me. From childbirth, these big orbs that came to me were the Sasquatch, and they told me that I was Sasquatch.
Mm.
They said that you walked your last life you walked as Sasquatch,
Wow.
and you came back in this life to walk as a human, and you came back to live this experience as a white human growing up. Anyways, the path that I chose was yeah, it was like a predetermined destination that I'd come from the spirit world. I came from the Sasquatch life into the spirit world, back into a physical body to live this human life on Earth at this time. And as I was saying earlier, it wasn't just like this awesome psychedelic experience where I experienced some beings. They showed me my whole life. They explained everything to me, and I had experiences to connect all the dots. So it all came together. They really at that moment. They really painted a whole picture of what they meant to me, and why why I kept having experiences, why I couldn't get them out of my consciousness. And it was an absolutely incredible experience. It was like full on. Once they took the ceremony on, it was all like the whole ceremony was surrounded by. It was all surrounded in the Sasquatch field.
Wow.
And yeah, I feel there's more little snippets. It's funny that I didn't even read my notes, but it's good because I'm just remembering what comes through. And
Your notes from when you were down there?
yeah, I documented all these ceremonies like
Ah.
on paper, and I haven't even read them for a few years, but they're just ingrained in me. Like they've been so they're such powerful teachings that I just really kept the 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 main part of them, the main teachings I have really just embedded in me pretty easy to explain. So the fourth ceremony was really mind opening, and what I went down there to figure out and like to understand them more
Mm-hmm.
was granted to me. And they showed me they showed me what I needed to see at that time, and they explained to me that they've been with me my whole life, and they walk with me. And that was really mind blowing, was that experience that I had in the Wilmore when I went and I got, bit by the tick and seen the cougars and seen the glyphs and
Yeah.
seen the trees and seen the gifted the antler and seen the spaceship, and that was such a powerful medicine trip. And I do believe in the evenings, they come and they access your dream time. I was probably going through this ceremony while I was there. I just didn't remember it.
Mm.
They also, I believe, have the ability, like different star nations, to give you the information or take your memory away from you. Many people have different abduction experiences and stuff, and have the scars in the morning, but they have no memory of it. So what I understood was this moment of ceremony when I was at the fire with the Sasquatch. This actually happened the previous year or whatever, or a couple years earlier, when I was in the jungle, or when I was in
Okay.
in the Wilmore.
Oh yeah.
So it was really mind blowing, and the field of this Sasquatch above me was just so powerful and so strong, and I could just feel his energy there and see him. I could, like, I know him by visual, like, and he was just such a strong, physically looking, powerful being, and I really understood their shamanic powers at this time, and that they really rule. They may not necessarily fully rule, but they have a lot of power in the altered states, in the cosmic reality of things. So that ceremony came to an end, and I had a chance to share it at the end, and the talking stick got around to me, and I started sharing my experience. And I had said that this once I was getting, you know, terror, tormented by these spirits. I called in the Sasquatch, and this huge Sasquatch appeared above me, and the co-facilitator at that time said, "Wow." She just was mind blown. She said, "Eric, you wouldn't believe it. You had this massive blue," she called it an angel. She said you had this huge blue angel above you the whole night.
Wow.
This massive aura of this huge blue energy field above you. And she called it an angel.
Yeah.
She had no reference point at that time.
Cool.
And I said, "Yeah." I said, "The Sasquatch that I've been telling you, that was them. This was a Sasquatch above
Yeah.
me." So I had another person who physically
Mhm.
seen that, and then we had a chance to talk to the medicine man about it, and she was the she was like the intermediary between us, because he didn't really speak a whole lot of English. And we sat down at the table, and she started explaining this to him. And um it's actually funny. Well, it's not, I shouldn't say funny. It was interesting, because this was the only ceremony he holds ceremony all the time, and he never really purges
Oh
anymore.
yeah.
But this ceremony, he left.
Oh really?
Yeah, he left, and he went up. His house is just behind there, and he went up to his house, and he was purging,
Wow.
and he was bargaining. I don't know if it was connected,
Yeah.
but I thought it interesting. And then what had happened in that conversation, he said, "Yeah, the hairy folks were here."
Mm.
And he also said that the hairy folks don't come around too much.
Ooh.
Yeah, they don't come around too much, but I feel that they brought a lot of medicine,
Yeah.
even for him. They brought a lot of energy into the ceremony that he,
Mhm.
being, in his position, he was probably had to work through a lot of that energy, and maybe unfamiliar energy that I brought there.
Yeah.
So it was really neat to have some,
Sort of context in what you've been going through your whole life.
yeah,
Yeah.
and to get some feedback and some physical feedback
Right. Yeah.
from them who
From other
actually,
people who's experienced
yeah,
what you were going through.
yeah, and I can really attest to her seeing something as well. Like, there was a fella beside me who lived in Vancouver,
Mhm.
and he's a young fella about my age who was doing ceremony. He was there pretty well the whole time I was, and he was having an experience beside me one evening. And when when the medicine kind of wears off, they called this state Mariadu, where we would just sit there in Mariadu. It was like kind of the ending state. And I was looking right next to me and this guy, and I could see a light inside his body
Hmm.
moving up and down his legs and through his chest. As I was literally looking at him with my physical eyes, the medicine was wearing off at this time, and I had to rub my eyes and like look at him. Like there was a light inside of his body moving around. And it would move into his legs and into his stomach.
Hmm.
And I could just see it. Like if you hold a flashlight on your fingertip or something,
Yeah.
you can see through your finger.
Yeah.
And the most amazing thing was when we started sharing, he started talking about this light
Whoa,
that
cool.
came into his body.
Yeah.
And I was mind blown. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. I seen this light.
Yeah.
You were right beside me. I had to rub my eyes and like look, like I began like put my head down closer to him, and I'm like seeing this light move in his body. So it's really amazing how everyone is connected in these ceremonies, and you can really feel and hear and see what other people are going through and experiencing. So yeah, it was really opening and really getting really mind blown down there and starting to understand more. And we were in a jungle one day walking, and we were all going to look for some specific medicine that we were going to add to the brew, or or I don't know if it was some different medicine that we were looking for. And can I pause for a second?
Yeah.
I'm just
All right, we're back.
a little interruption. Yeah, I'll get right back to where I left off. So in the yeah, we were off in the jungle on a little field trip, looking for some medicine and stuff, and there's no wind. It's just like dead, no wind. The wind is like just dead, and there's sounds of the jungle and stuff, and we're just walking, and like maybe 100 feet away or something, really close. This big tree just comes crashing down, eh?
Really?
Just crashes down, and I knew this was Sasquatch,
Yeah.
eh? The lady, the co-facilitator, looks at me. She knew right away, eh?
Yeah.
And I just looked at her and
Yeah.
I said, yep. Pointed over there. I said, that's
Uh-huh.
them. And also the Peruvian Sasquatch appeared in
Oh, really?
one of the ceremonies. I think it was a ceremony right before that.
Hmm.
Just appeared. It didn't say anything. It just appeared. It just kind of appeared right in my vision, and it was a lot more. It was a lot more um, primate-like. It was shorter. It was a little more hunched over. It had
Mm-hmm.
longer arms, almost like orangutan-like arms,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very clearly like a lot larger, upright. Um, Sasquatch being, but a little different. Yeah, a little different subspecies or whatever from different part of the world. His body is a little different, and in Alberta, like in Canada, northern Canada, the farther north you go, the animals actually get bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Like the moose in northern Canada, or the biggest moose, and the grizzly bears up in Alaska are the biggest grizzly bears.
Mm-hmm.
Just need more. I don't know exactly, but they're bigger bodies for the harsher conditions.
The Sasquatch up north?
The Sasquatch in Canada are giant, and
Yeah.
so the one down there that I seen was a little bit smaller. Um, it was just one though that I observed, and so I believe actually that tree falling was like the following days after that. I'd kind of connected to the local Sasquatch a bit, and so it was a really mind opening journey down there. And you know, I have more experiences, but nothing was as powerful as that one ceremony when they really came and show me what they really had to show me. And that at that moment, they really strengthened my spiritual connection to them like tenfold. I had a I had a deep understanding, and when they would tune into my frequency, I would hear them. I would hear the frequency when the Sasquatch would tune into me. So following 2 to 3 years, once or twice a day, I would get these frequency downloads. Like this frequency would come over me, and I knew every time that I was tapping into the Sasquatch. And so I had a that was a really incredible trip. And what actually, I'll go back to the fishing and stuff, and it was a lot more than just the ceremonies. Was able to go and explore the jungles with Holke. And like 2 weeks in, I after I asked for the boat, I'd I'd inquired about it, and they said, "Oh yeah, you know, kind of like it was still a thing." Sounded like, but they didn't say anything else, and I
Yeah.
got to the point where I'm just like, there must not be a boat available, and
Yeah.
that's it. And then probably like after 3 weeks, it was almost too bad because it was like just a couple weeks before I left.
Yeah.
Um, they came and said, "Your boat's ready," and I said, "What do you mean my boat's ready?" And the co-facilitator said, "Yeah, I don't know. Apparently your boat's ready." So I'm like, "What?" So I walk with I don't even remember who I went there with. I think Holke, and down this little path on the edge of the little river, and there's a brand new Amazonian dugout canoe sitting there.
Wow.
It's like the dude just made it. Like,
Wow.
so apparently when I had requested a boat, so the boat, he went to the boat maker in the village,
Wow.
and he went into the jungle, chopped down the tree,
Yeah.
made me a dugout canoe, and it was pure black, fresh black pitch. So apparently the black is from some component of one of the trees in the jungle. So they coat the whole boat after in this
Wow.
black. It looks like
Beautiful.
paint, but it's some sort of natural pitch or something that comes from one of the trees. So that was incredible. I'm like, what? This guy made me the boat. I want to meet this guy.
Yeah.
And apparently the guy didn't, he wasn't interested in meeting me. He didn't want anything. Really, like I paid him for the boat,
Mm-hmm.
but I gave him 3 times as much as
He asked for,
he
or it
yeah,
was,
the original cost of the
yeah.
boat. And I mean, it wasn't very expensive. It was like, I don't know how many hundred soles, like, which wasn't much money. And I'm like, this guy probably put 2 weeks of building in here. I gave him like way more
Yeah.
than, but I think it was passed off to his wife or something. So I never did ever meet him. I really wanted to meet him and thank him.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So now we had this boat, and I packed a lot into that trip. Within that, we would go on these hunting adventures, and we would paddle up the river and
Mm-hmm.
get on these little side channels, and we would go overnight, and we would bring a couple of little headlights, and we would paddle in the evening, and we would make a little fire on the side of the beach till it was dark. And then once it was dark, we'd get on the river,
Ooh.
and on these little canals, they're like 10 feet wide or something,
Yeah.
and we would silently float down the canals with our
Whoa.
lights looking for eyes.
Whoa.
And that's how they hunt. We had a shotgun, and we were looking for different animals came in, and different is these, I forget the name of them, but this kind of pig like animal that comes down and around the rivers and stuff. And
Yeah.
it was incredible. And also like monkeys and stuff. And we had an incredible time. And this one time it was so awesome. We were like fishing in this little area, and it was deep water, maybe 12 feet deep. And I had a snag, and we were catching piranhas and stuff, and there's electric eels there and stuff. And I had a snag, and they don't get too many fish hooks down there, and they're expensive. So I was about ready to just break the line, and he looked at me and smiled. I didn't think much. He literally just did this sideways flip off the canoe, and boom, he's gone. He's down in the water.
Yeah.
he grabbed my line and he followed my line all the way to the bottom and unhooked it.
Wow.
And then he came up and jumped back in the canoe. And we just were laughing and laughing and laughing. I just couldn't believe it. He was just so much of a little jungle boy. And we would talk. We'd be going down the river or up the river, anything when it came time to like set up camp or whatever. I would speak to him in English and I'd use a bit of hand movements. He'd speak to me in Spanish, and we just knew intuitively what we needed to do. Like we were just so practical, and our practicalities really aligned. So we would do these adventures for like a couple days at a time, and just go off. We'd bring back pile of fish and stuff for the community to eat and stuff. It was really incredible. So so that trip really opened me up to a way bigger understanding of reality and the spirit world and the Sasquatch people and my connection to them, and also to like other culture and the beauty of the jungle. I was also, I was called to the jungle as a kid. Every moment I had to watch a documentary about the jungle, I would watch it. Like
Mm.
I'm just fascinated by the biodiversity there and all the different life. So it was such an incredible experience, and yeah, I got to come back to Canada with a lot of new understandings of how I perceived reality and what I was shown with the medicine, and that really strengthened my spiritual connection so much. Now I had this tight bond that I could almost tap into anytime, and I could feel daily. It was like 2 3 times a day where I would get this frequency that they gave me in ceremony, and I would just know that they're either with me or they're tuning into me or they're watching me. And for like 2 to 3 years, I had that happen daily, 2 to 3 times a day. And then it slowly kind of faded away. And it happens now often, but not daily anymore. And but you know, connect in different ways and stuff. So it was really it was the start of a whole new journey with the Sasquatch people, because now I had all this new understanding and I had all this. I had now communicated with the ones that I have been experiencing, and you know, I had learned that they're interdimensional. The ones I'm experiencing were interdimensional, and they can follow me anywhere. They followed me to Peru. They weren't necessarily physically there, but they're in the astral fields. They tap into your energy frequency and they can show up anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
which really eventually became such a great ally to me, because I can call upon them. I call upon them, and in ceremony, in times of need in the forest, or if I'm looking for some extra guidance, or if I need some protection, I call on the Sasquatch people, and I know they're with me all the time. So when I came back, it was like I had all this new understanding, and it really helped me for moving forward. Now I'm just gonna kind of like pick off, kind of like popcorn pick some of the experiences that I'm having from now on. So up to this point, I was really like, it was almost kind of scheduled. Like all my first experience led me up to that one big experience, which led me up into the Wilmore,
Yeah.
and then which led me to Peru, which really opened up my gates, opened up all my channels to accessing these altered states, and all this whole new understanding. So from this point forward, the encounters became a lot stronger and a lot more frequent, and I had where will I go from here? So when I come back from Peru, so This was about the time. This was like another major life shift for me. So right at this time, around this time, I was tired of working for like I'd been working for um, a developer in Edmonton, and
Yeah.
I'd work in the winter. I'd go work in the oil field. I did different things for making money, and I was looking for something new. It wasn't serving me anymore, but I was also like diving deep into my spirituality and trying to learn more about what was happening and how I can tap into these fields more, and finding that a bit of a community online, and other people who have now experienced these things. And I got back into researching and reading Kiwoni Lapsaritis' books, and
Mm-hmm.
and then at some point, um, no, this was later, so I'll step back a little bit. So I was so tired of the mundane, 8 to 5 job, and I'd been working really hard for quite a while, and at this point I'd already had my boat up in Kitimat. I had a large boat, that like a liveaboard boat, fishing boat, liveaboard, and I told my partner at this time that I couldn't do this anymore. I was kind of going downhill mentally, just going to work every day. I just couldn't I just couldn't handle it anymore. It wasn't feeding my soul, and I knew there was so much more for me. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to share and learn more things, and just so I told her. I said, "Look, I can't live here anymore." We were living in Edmonton at the time in one of her mom's homes, and I said, "I need to go. I need to go to my boat. I'm going to move to BC." She was working at the university, so she wasn't able to join me, and she gave me her blessings. I said, "Look, I just got to get out of here for a while. I'm going to go spend the summer on the coast." And I was hoping she would join me to move down there. So I went to the coast, and we were still together at this point, and I packed up all my things, and I drove down, and I spent the summer on my boat fishing, and had different series of friends come down, and we'd go out for 8 to 10 day fishing trips at a time, and was experiencing some things. I was really into my drum journeying at this point. I had a drum,
Mm-hmm.
and I would drum every day, especially when I was alone. I would drum on my boat for like a couple hours a day. Really started to learn how to navigate, tap into these altered states, going into like a drum journey, and
Mm.
started tuning in and connecting with the Sasquatch down there and different star nations, and seeing those, able to almost call upon the starships down there and have them come and fly over the bay up in Kitimat. And just in dusk, these huge light ships would fly over the bay. And I had a few experiences where, one experience, my aunt and uncle came down, and they're religious folk.
Yeah.
And one evening, it was dusk. We were still at the marina. We were just about to head out on our fishing trip, and it was still blue sky. The
Yeah.
sun was going down. It was probably down below the mountains, and I was on the top of the boat, just like hanging out, and a huge orb, light ship, I call them, starts floating across the bay. So I call them up. I say, "You guys come and look at this."
Yeah.
I have my binoculars, really good binoculars, and
Yeah.
you put your binoculars on it. Once again, they're just these big spherical balls of light, illuminating as bright as a star
Mm-hmm.
within our atmosphere. It's still daylight out,
Yeah.
floating across the bay. And I
Wow.
gave it to my uncle Larry, and I'm like, "Larry, look at this." He's like, "Yeah." I said, "What do you think this is?"
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Well, it must be the International Space Station." you know
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh yeah, eh?"
Uh-huh.
Just floating over Kitimat,
Yeah.
in daylight, illuminating like a star,
Yeah.
completely spherical.
Yeah.
And really, really kind of opened him up.
Yeah.
To this day, he does recognize that that was an odd
Yeah.
thing that he's seen. And so there's this one bay down there. one big long beach called Monkey Beach,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of the best clamming beaches on the north coast of BC. It's in between Kitimat and um, Hart Hartley Bay. Just is down Ursula Channel, and there's a big beach there, kind of close to Bishop Bay. And this beach, from what I heard, and I believe I probably even read this, from what I heard from some of the folks up there, is that they had this beach called Monkey Beach before they even knew, before white man or settlers had even come to North America, before they even knew what monkeys were.
Mm.
They had called this beach Monkey Beach, and from what I understand is that the First Nations used to walk alongside the Sasquatch there, and we used to clam with them there, and they all used to have relations with them down there. I was able to meet one of the um, one of the Heisla family members who has the like the I don't know if it's the permission, but he's one of the only people in the Heisla Nation who can do Sasquatch artwork.
Oh wow.
Just I don't know if it's within the laws of their nation there, and yeah, I was able to share some of my stories with him, and he shared some of his stories with me, and his uncle was down. He was down. What's the channel? He'll come to me. He was down one of the channels, moose hunting, bear hunting, and he thought what he saw was a bear, and he shot this bear, and then it stood up on 2 feet and it ran into the woods.
Wow.
And he was with a few people, and they took this boat to shore, and he went off to track it. From what I remember is he they he followed the blood, and he followed it up the creek, and he got to where there was like three Sasquatch, the wounded one and two others, and the Sasquatch was crying like a human. Apparently, it was crying like a human, like yelling and bawling like a human. And
Wow.
when those other Sasquatch seen him, they chased him back to the boat, and he ran to the boat as fast as he could, and he was yelling to get the people ready to start the motor, and he
Uh-huh.
jumped back in the boat, and this was his uncle. Was this Yeah, this was his uncle, and he was like middle age, so he would have probably been like our grandfather's age. And
Running. The
yeah,
guy who was
like
running?
when this happened, like
Oh, okay.
this was like he was a fairly older fella,
Yeah.
and he ended up going into a coma for 2 weeks.
He made it back to the boat?
He made it back to the boat. He came back to town, and he basically went into a coma for 2 weeks. And
Wow.
when he came back from the coma, he had a lot of special abilities.
Really?
Yeah, he was able to yeah, he was able to. I don't exactly know. Like they said that he was basically super psychic, and he became one of the medicine men in the tribe, and
Wow.
he carried a lot of this Sasquatch medicine, and yeah,
Wow.
they I don't exactly remember in what context, but he was explaining to the Sasquatch. He apologized to them and said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shoot you or him. I thought it was a bear. And so they put him under this
Wow.
supernatural trance, I guess, or whatever, for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
he who knows where he went in those 2 weeks, and he came back with these special abilities. And so I was able to hear some stories, and I heard a handful of other stories about other people, and I've actually read a bunch of stories about up in that area, the in the north coast of British Columbia. And to them, the Sasquatch are there's no they're part of their culture strongly.
Mm.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts that these beings exist, but they revere them. They're as spiritual beings and strong allies of the forest, and they don't really mess with them, and they have a lot of their own cultural teachings around them. So I wasn't working a lot up there, and I was really trying to like find my path, and I was starting to run out of money, as I still have bills and stuff to pay. And my my brother called me, and at this point I'd quit guiding. Um, I was no longer guiding for a handful of years. I was just like enjoying myself and my own outdoor adventures. And my brother's wife's uncle is an outfitter, and they kept trying to get me to guide for quite a few years because they had some moose tags up where our farm is, and I would always say no. I had a bit of anxiety around guiding. I just didn't want to go back and deal with clients and that whole thing and be responsible for a hunt. And so he called me this one fall and he said, Eric, one of our guides dropped out, and we need a guide, like in like 10 days or 2 weeks or something. Like,
Mm-hmm.
can you guide? Will you come back and guide?
Mm-hmm.
We'll pay you well. We need you to come guide. So I, thought about it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm running out of money. I need some money. I'm going to come back and guide. Um, so I kind of wrapped up my boat for a while, and I hopped in my vehicle and I drove back to Alberta. And it was nice because I had been gone now all summer. My partner had come up once and visit me, and then I was able to come back and um, do this guiding trip. So the guiding trip was in our area, right around the farm. So land that I'm very familiar with. I know where the moose are and the different blocks of woods, and it's just the beginning of calling season, so it's perfect. And I get there, and for some reason I had no anxiety this year about it.
Mm.
Previous years they had asked me to guide, and I would just get anxious, and I'd be just like, no, it just didn't sit with me. As soon as he asked me, I just accepted the fact that I was going to guide, and I just let it flow so naturally. Just came as just easy, so easy for me. So I went back a couple days before or whatever and got prepared, and the night before the hunt started, I go to the lodge and meet my hunter, and I won't say his name on here, but really really great fella from Ohio, Mendocino, Ohio, and yeah, it was great. It was like super cool dude, really fit and younger fella, in his 40s or whatever, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna do this hunt, and it was great. We went to sleep, and the next morning we wake up on the first morning of the hunt, and it's funny enough, my brother was guiding out of his house. His clients were in his house. I was staying at the hunting lodge, and he'd called me that morning, and um, we were just heading out. Or anyway, he said he either the night before or that morning he's seen a bull moose by the farm there, right on his land. So he's like, Eric, we have a bull moose right here. Why don't we try to get this moose this morning? So I go there with my hunter and we try to get this moose, and it didn't work. Like the moose, I don't know, he didn't come, or we were gonna
Yeah.
push him out of this bush, and never seen him. It was a nice bull. So we went to my friend's land, Irving Henning, which comes up in these stories as well. He's an old German hermit who lives north of the farm. He owns 5 quarters of land, and he also has incredible ET experiences for many years.
Oh, nice.
On that land. He bought the land for $2,000 a quarter when he was in his 20s, and still lives to this day and has numerous experiences of different ETs, and I'll share some of them later on in the series. So here we are in on his land, and we come up to this area where I'm going to start calling, and he's got this big swampland, moose meadows, and then up on these hills, he's got these hills that are full of willows and alder brambles and bush, so lots of food for the moose. And I set up and we just start calling, and when we guide we hunt all day. We don't really come back for lunch, at least not, not for a while, not till we kind of get played out or whatever. So we
Yeah.
we pack a lunch and we're just out in the woods all day. So we get there in the morning, and like it's probably like 10 or something at this time. It's after the first hunt, and we set up, and I we find this real fresh piss hole, big rut pit where the moose
Oh.
dug up, and fresh bull piss everywhere. And so I thought it would be a great spot to call from. So I set him up on the edge of the muskeg and start calling. And it didn't take long, and a moose appeared silently right beside him.
Yeah.
A bull moose appeared silently right beside him and literally walked to like 10 feet. And I was sitting about 20 yards away, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a small bull, and it was the first day of the hunt. So he had a clear shot at this moose at like maybe 10 or 15 feet, eh? And he looked at me, and I said, no, no, don't shoot, eh? Um, and then the moose eventually just kind of, I don't know if he winded us or whatever, but he sauntered off there. And I kept calling, and then a little while later, another moose comes. And this moose walks on the same path as that moose, right beside him in the muskeg, and comes right in the same spot. And he's also not a big enough moose to shoot. Eh? He's just like 2 or 3 year old bull. So it's really exciting. It's the first day of the hunt, and
Mm-hmm.
we're having moose action already. And
Mm-hmm.
so we just hunkered down. I think at that point I probably went to him a couple times, and we were just like, give a high five. Like, that's super exciting when you get a moose come, close
Yeah.
encounter with your hunter. So then I go back. Our setup seems to be working good. I just keep calling, and now here comes another moose, and this moose starts calling when he's coming, and it's a big bull. It's a bull that's made these piss holes, and he starts grunting.
Yeah.
He starts coming, and he starts walking right to his shooting lane, and I see him draw back, eh? And he draws back, and he's a full draw, and then the moose stops, and his kill zone is right beside, like right in, there's a tree right in front of his kill zone,
Oh.
so he can't shoot, eh?
Yeah.
And so he can't shoot, and then he has to release his arrow. So he releases his arrow, but he's not moving. The moose doesn't see him at this
Yeah.
point. I'm calling from over there, so the moose is kind of fixed in the area that I'm calling. And then the moose starts to take a few more steps ahead, and he draws back. But when he drew forward, the tip of his broadhead got stuck in a branch.
Oh yeah.
So when he drew back, he had no more arrow because
Oh,
it popped
like the
off his
tip popped
string.
off. Oh God.
So the arrow stuck in the branch in front of
Yeah.
him. So now he drew back. He had no arrow. And I'm just cracking up, eh?
Yeah.
I'm laughing. He looks over at me. He had to draw back. And at this point, the moose seen us.
Yeah.
And boom, the moose takes off up the side of the hill.
Wow.
And I'm just cracking up. And I look at him, and I'm just like waving my hands. I'm laughing, and he's laughing. This moose ran up the hill, and the moose started calling again. The moose just started grunting and grunting.
Yeah.
So I say, get up, get your stuff. We're going to get this moose. He thought I was crazy. He's like, what
Yeah.
are you talking about? I said, we're going to go kill this moose. I said, he's up here. He's still super excited. He's grunting. We're going to get him. So we run up this side of this hill, and all of a sudden the moose starts running back down the side, back
Yeah.
down where he was coming from, down into the bottom muskeg land.
Not
So
towards you.
kind of like a little bit in
Yeah.
front.
Yeah.
So we ran back down to the bottom of the hill,
Yeah.
and we can hear this moose crashing through the brambles, like just in front of us. So I say, run. We have to run. I say, follow
Yeah.
me. So we ran as fast as we could up, and then about as when, as far as we could go before the moose was going to hit the cut line. I said, get down, draw back.
Yeah.
And the moose comes out onto the trail, and I stopped the bull moose, and I ranged him at about 50 yards, and he hammered it. And so within the first, this was like at 3:15 in the afternoon on the first day of the hunt.
Yeah.
So at 3:15, we had a moose down
Nice.
of the first day of the hunt.
Wow.
So I'm telling you this story because this really is my Sasquatch experiences and the Sasquatch way of life isn't just about my experiences. It's about me really like following my guidance and listening to the desires of my heart and my spirit and really trying to walk the life that serves me. So here I am on the first day of the hunt. We're successful, and it was actually the biggest bull that was harvested in our camp that year. It was
Wow.
like
Nice one.
I think it was like a 52-inch bull, beautiful big bull. And we dealt with it that night and took it into the butcher the next morning. And so now I have this time to hang out with this fella.
Yeah.
And
Because you had one tag.
yeah, he has
Yeah.
one tag,
And
and
first day, boom.
yeah, and he was there with somebody. He brought somebody. He paid actually for somebody to come. One of his workers actually, he gifted him a hunt. So now we have now I still have to I have to be with this guy
Yeah.
because he doesn't want to sit in camp all day. And we had some days to share life stories with each other and share about each other. So and learn about each other. So I really learned about his story. He was yeah, he grew up really poor. Him and his mom were homeless for a period in his younger time. They lived in a car, and
Wow.
he ended up he ended up becoming a multimillionaire, and starting. Yeah, he started doing different businesses, and he ended up with these huge um, corporations in Ohio, like plating. So he does like um,
Like metal plating.
yeah, metal plating for different car companies and
Mm.
stuff. He has these huge warehouses, and he has like hundreds of employees, and
Mm-hmm.
he became a self-made multi-millionaire.
Mm.
And he he had a fascination for old cars, and in Alberta, you know what it's like being
Yeah.
there. Old farmyards are full of
Yeah.
all kinds of old cars. So I started driving them around, and the outfitter was putting together, because they know a lot of the farmers, these different spots for us to go look at these old cars. And this guy had a mechanic shop set up where he would get old cars. He had a team of mechanics who just restored cars. And what some of the things that he did was make he would find stories of men who had a dream about having a car and who may have had a mishap in their life where they either got cancer or got ill, or couldn't work, couldn't build this car. So he would like talk to their family and find out these specific, in I don't know how he would locate these people, but it'd be like if your dad wanted like a 67 Chrysler or something or other,
Yeah.
and then he would come to you and find out all this information, and he would build these cars and he would gift them to these people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he would like
Cool.
build these
Huh.
amazing, restore these beautiful hot rods or whatever kind of cars and gift them. Like, this is the kind of person he was. So he knew that, there was much more to wealth and abundance than just like holding on to it. He really shared a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the beautiful opportunity to share with him my life and share with him my Sasquatch experiences
Yeah.
and my connection to nature, and you know all these different stories that I was sharing with him was really starting to inspire him. And I had a dream at this point. I actually really At this point I had already come to Salt Spring Island,
Yeah.
and I did a summer long permaculture design course here. And I was already into permaculture pretty hard, and I really wanted a sawmill. And I wanted to start a sawmill business and start making live edge wood so I could build live edge furniture and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I told this he asked, we were talking about all kinds, like we got really vulnerable, and like what is your desire for life? What do you want to do? What do you want to create? And I said, I really have this dream to build a sawmill company. I want to build live edge furniture and create art out of wood. And it was really cool. I was able to share that, and my plan was, because every winter I would go work in the oil field and
Yeah.
make a bunch of money. And so my plan was to work that winter in the oil field and buy a sawmill in the spring and start a sawmill company. And after like day 4 or something like that, he started asking me these questions, and I really wondered. I was starting to wonder at this point. He asked me once. He said, "Eric, if there was one place in the world." Well, he was also really inspired by my trip to Peru with the
Mm-hmm.
ayahuasca, and I told him this, and he was just like, "Man, you're crazy, dude!" Like, um, so I told him he asked me one day if there was one place in the world where you wanted to go, where you could go, where would it be? And I had already seen the jungle of the Amazon. I
Yeah.
really wanted to see Madagascar.
Wow.
So I said, if I had to pick one spot in this moment, I would say I would love to go to Madagascar. I know they have the most unbelievable jungle.
Biodiversity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think some of the richest in the world in the
Yeah.
jungle there. I'd really like to go there. And he's like, "Oh, okay." Didn't think much of it. But I was almost wondering why he was asking me
Yeah.
this question and stuff. And I don't know if it was that day or the next day. We're driving in my truck, heading somewhere, and he looked at me and he said, "Eric, I'm going to buy you a sawmill."
Wow.
I said, "What?" He said, "I'm going to buy you a sawmill." He said, just spending these days with you and like hearing your stories and your life path and stuff and what you've done in your life, and you've really inspired me. And I feel if I buy you a sawmill, you're going to do something great with it. And I'm like, my gosh, I couldn't believe it. I'm like,
Yeah,
you're going
totally.
to, and he's like, yep. He said, I'm selling one of my farms. He had a farm that was worth an obscene amount of money, one of his ranches. And he said, I'm just in a deal right now to sell this ranch. And I already talked to my wife about it. He said,
Uh-huh.
when this deal is sealed, we're gonna we'll figure it all out in the next few months. But we're gonna get you the sawmill that you want and need.
Wow.
So he said, I want three things from you. He said, first thing is you got to pay it forward.
Yeah.
And at that point in my life, it was beautiful because what you give, you get back. And I felt I paid it forward all the time. I was always paying it forward. I would help people all the time, not necessarily financially, but
Mm-hmm.
physically and mentally. Like if anybody needed anything, I would drop what I was doing. I would go and help them. And so, but he was talking in more of a big way. And I'm like, great, absolutely. And he said, the second thing is, I want you to build me a table and send me a table.
Cool.
And he said, the third thing is, I want to bring my son up there and go fishing with you.
To Kitimat?
Yeah. I'm
Nice.
like, great. I'll do all those things, no problem. So that evening we got back to camp and he said, I want you to watch this movie. So hadn't seen this movie at this time, but there's a movie called Pay It Forward, and
Oh yeah.
he set me up on his laptop and he said, I want you to watch this movie tonight. So I watched this movie, while everybody else was like hanging out and having some drinks and stuff. And um, yeah, it was a beautiful, it was a beautiful message in the movie about, the act of giving and receiving, and when you give, you get back, and you may not see it, but it's like universal law, what you put out you get back. And I had a pretty good understanding of energy at this point, and how one can create and manifest things. And so I ended up I never I never actually ended up making him a piece, a table, but what I ended up doing was sending him like a couple big lifts of slabs. So
Yeah.
I cut some real choice pieces of wood, and he ended up building a wood shop in his house, him and his wife, and they wanted to just play around. So I sent them probably like, I don't know, 30 slabs or
Yeah.
something of different species,
Oh, cool. That's fun.
and his son never did. Um, Him and his son never did come fishing,
Yeah.
but I feel that I do pay it forward the best that I can, and I really strive for that, and I do believe one day I'm going to gift my sawmill to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am still using it at this time, but in the coming years, when I'm done with it, I'm gonna find somebody who is really looking for that, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll know the right person when the time comes, and
Yeah.
I'll be able to gift that to somebody. So what this did was it really empowered me, and it really changed my life. So we had been in communication about it, and that winter after he sealed his deal, we'd went back and forth, and I'd found the perfect sawmill.
Yeah.
So he ended up literally wire transferring the sawmill company the money and shipped me. They shipped me the mill that
Wow, amazing.
yeah, that that I still have to this
Oh,
day. And this is another big part of the journey because this sawmill and the inspiration and the spirit that this built up owning this sawmill and what I started to do with it
yeah.
brought in so much ceremony and so many Sasquatch experiences.
Wow.
So I originally got the sawmill sent up to Kitimat. I went back and I actually spent that winter up in Kitimat working there instead of the oil field.
Yeah.
I had the sawmill sent up there and I started my company as I was on my drum journeys in my boat that winter. I really got into ceremony and I was still with my partner in Edmonton. We were having a long distance relationship and um, my drum started speaking to me and I started journaling and I started manifesting. I started writing my vision of my business and I started just journaling everything that I wanted to create. And my drum started speaking to me. It's when I really learned the spirit of the drum. My drum introduced itself to me and he gave me its name and I would go into these beautiful deep shamanic trances with the drum and I ended up coming up with a name for my business and I will call it Relic Woodworks. Now, the Relic was inspired by Beachcombers when I was a youngster. I used to watch that show, and there was a fella on there by the name of Relic, and he would take his boat along the beaches, and they would get logs. They were beachcombers, and I had a boat, and this was really what I wanted to do. My original plan was to like beachcomb up there on the beaches and get beautiful cedar logs and different kind of wood that I would find on the beach and mill that stuff up. So that was like where I started, and I started building, and I started getting and milling and building some really beautiful pieces of art up there, beautiful tables and different live edge pieces that were just so incredible with the mix of driftwood and slabs. And then I was having complications with my girlfriend, and she had said, basically, Eric, I'm not moving up to Kitimat.
Yeah.
It's too much out of the way. If you don't move back to Edmonton, I'm going to leave you. We're done. And I'm like, okay. I wasn't ready to give that relationship up. So I literally packed up my stuff, winterized my boat, and put my sawmill on a trailer and headed back to Edmonton. I had no idea what I was going to do, where I was going to get wood,
Yeah.
how. When you think about a sawmill, Edmonton is the last place you think of a sawmill. We're surrounded by farm fields. The forests are poplar forests. There's some spruce and swamp
Yeah.
spruce and some pine, but there's no timber there really.
Yeah. No
Like,
big cedars and
yeah, there's no timber. And at that point, I still have my mind wrapped around like big forests
yeah.
and logs. Like, I didn't want to cut trees. I wanted to like salvage wood. I didn't want to like cut wood down just to get wood for building. So I brought it back to Edmonton and rekindled my relationship and I brought all my stuff out to the farm and was really trying to figure out how I was going to make a living with my sawmill. And my sister-in-law said, Eric, one of my girlfriends is an arborist and I'm sure she has trees all the time. Why don't I give her a call and see if she has some trees for you? So it just clicked and that was the start of it. When I started Relic back in Edmonton, there was a huge untapped resource in the city of Edmonton with the urban trees. The arborists were cutting. Edmonton has beautiful, huge, 100,
elm and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
100-year-old trees in Edmonton
Yeah.
in the boulevards and in the yards of the old neighborhoods, and they get cut down every day, and they were all going to the dump. So this arborist,
Wow.
I started getting wood from her, and I'm like, there's a lot of trees, and I started cold calling arborists in Edmonton, and I told them what I was doing. I said, look, I'm a I'm starting a sawmill business and I'm looking for trees. If you have any big trees that you take down and you're going to cut up for firewood or bring to the dump, if you call me, I'll come and pick them up.
Yeah.
So before I knew it, I had at least 10 arborists that I started working with every day. And
Wow.
I ended up, over time, I hauled back probably, I don't know, it's safe to say at least a couple thousand trees
Holy
from
smokes.
Edmonton.
And big
And
ones
big
too.
ones, huge ones. Like I,
Wow.
I ended up at one point my sawmill cuts 36 inches wide, so
Yeah.
3 feet wide. And I ended up going and buying a 60-inch Alaska mill with a 6 to 5 foot bar
Wow.
because I was getting trees that were like 5 feet wide. And even at the sawmill at the saw shop, they're like, "What are you doing with a 5 foot bar?" I'm like, "Well, I'm actually milling up big stumps and
Yeah.
big crotches of trees from Edmonton." And they thought I was crazy. They didn't believe me.
Yeah.
Um, when people think about 5 foot wide trees in Edmonton, they don't believe you. But let me tell you,
Yeah, there's some big ones, yeah.
yeah. So I started collecting these trees and hauling them back to the farm and really learning. I started learning so much, learning to honor these trees, honor the ceremony of the trees. And what I was doing was I was literally giving these old trees new life.
Hmm.
So these trees that would sit in that would grow in the city and literally like anchor energy into the city where kids could play in these trees and you don't even know it, but these trees are like transmuting so much energy in the city. They're absorbing
Yeah.
the toxins, and they're giving us new life, and they're really anchoring the beautiful frequencies in the city. And then they're getting really kind of disgraced when they get cut down and they go to the landfill and get bucked
Oh,
up and
totally.
burnt and just chucked in this huge pile. And I started cutting into them and seeing how beautiful they were, how
Hmm.
much life force were in these trees, and how much gorgeous energy in these slabs. And as I started building up the log piles at the farm, it started building. And as I would cut, I would spend, I would be outside until 11 o'clock at night in the summer milling. And my spirit started growing. My inspiration started growing. And I started to get so grateful. I was so grateful. I was so grateful for these trees. And I really started honoring these trees. And I had Sasquatch experiences at the farm before where I would hear them, and we would hear trees fall, and I'd been scared that time on the quad, and I would
Yeah.
they were around. But what ended up happening was I basically created a portal on the property,
Whoa.
and with the help of these trees, because these trees still held all their energy.
Yeah.
As these trees come, I remember going out there and sitting with these trees at night and just visioning and getting into a creative abundance mindset, and just so grateful. I was so grateful for these trees, and I would honor these trees, and I would just I would sit with them for hours and just honor the spirits of these trees. And I would make these little sacred fires, and I would bring in, at this time, I had my own shamanic practices underway. I would bring my own medicines out there and I would drum and I would really start cultivating this energy. And I started working with the Sasquatch energy, and the Sasquatch started coming. They started coming to the land. And I would hear them and they would leave signs. They would move bark around and they would leave signs on logs for me. And every time, often when they would come to the land, I had a woodshed where I would keep the firewood. We still have it. And when they come to the land, they literally take a chunk of firewood and they throw it at this woodshed, at the tin roof. And you would just hear bang, like it's in the middle of the day. We'd
Yeah.
be working on a sawmill. Even my employees would hear it.
Yeah.
And just bang, just like somebody threw a huge chunk
Yeah.
of firewood at the woodshed.
And that's what happened.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
So this is their sign. This I know that they came around when
Who else be throwing a big chunk of wood at the
yeah, there's nobody there, you
woodshed?
know. My parents might be inside. Me and my I'm out in the yard. And I started hearing trees fall and stuff. I don't know how many times me and my mom on how many different occasions we're just sitting there at the farm, working in the garden, milling around the yard. No wind or light wind or whatever, and tree would just fall in the forest. Makes no sense, you know. We don't really have a lot of dead trees there. We have small poplar forests, you know, and these trees would fall. But the most ironic is when the trees fall and there's no wind.
Yeah, totally.
And there's nothing to explain why these trees fall. So so I started experiencing these Sasquatch, and around this time I started getting into meditation. And I started really cultivating my inner spirit and learning how to alchemize, I guess. I started doing grid work. I
Mm.
started working in the astral fields in my meditations and my drum journeys, and I started bringing light to different parts of the planet, and I started working with the rainbow grids, and I started working with energies, and it was all intuitively taught, you know. I just was following my guidance and I was following my spirit, and I felt that the Sasquatch were meeting me in these astral planes, and they were helping my guidance fields build. My guidance was connected to them. As I would listen to myself and listen to my intuitions and move energy just with my mind and like in these areas, you know, things would start happening. And I started really deepening, and I started having really intense dreams, and I started really having opening up my channels and clearing clearing my clearing my fields to the really deep dream time. And I started really flying in my dreams so much. I became a dream guide, and I would fly around to different friends and people, and I would teach them how to fly in their dreams. And I became a dream guide. I would work all over working with different people. And then how, where do I want to go from here? With these dreams, and what was still happening were the astral projections were still happening. So,
From like when you were younger.
yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point in my life, they were still happening. So I would still astral project, and I still didn't know where I was, but I knew I was gone for a good while, and I would still gain consciousness at the clouds. And I would come down and I would hit my body so hard still that I would like blast out of bed, or I would lose all the wind in my chest because
Wow.
my spirit's hitting my body so hard. And I started and one time when I was falling, I just learned how to start gliding. And
Ah.
and then this is a little pre dream guide. This is where I learned how to start flying in dream time. And I would glide down to my body, and I learned that I could fly. And I was also practicing lucid dreaming at this time. I was reading books about lucid dreaming, so I would get into these in between states and awaken myself in the dreams, and I would start flying around, and I would start working with people. And I would sometime one time I flew up. I was flying high because I became aware, and I started flying up into. I wanted to go up into the cosmos, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And I got up into the clouds. Then I got above the clouds, and I met this beautiful woman up there. And she said, "There's many of us up here."
Yeah.
And I could see them, and I could just sense this vast like expansive consciousness up there. But I couldn't go any higher, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Like my etheric cord or something, eh? It
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't let me go any higher. But it was so neat. I met this beautiful woman, and she said it just stuck with me so much. Your exact words was, "There are many of us up here,"
Hmm.
and And my dreams became so strong. I started like going to sleep in the daytime. I would go when I had a chance. I would try to sleep for 2 hours in the day because
Yeah.
I was having these really prophetic dreams, and I was actually having dreams. I believe some of them were revolved around these times.
Yeah.
And one of the ones that really stuck out to me was I was at an airport. I was at a landing strip in Canada with my mom and my auntie, and none of my other family was there. And we were actually fleeing Canada. We could no longer exist up here. There were
Wow.
still people here. It wasn't like Armageddon site. No, it
Yeah.
wasn't like inhabitable.
Mhm.
But I knew that we couldn't exist here anymore, and we were trying to get to South America.
Wow.
We were heading south, and I really feel
Mm.
that was a prophetic. Like I really almost can maybe see that happening at some point. And we weren't going through an international airport. We were literally just walking up on a tarmac and walking into this airplane. And around this time is when I really started getting into star nations, and I started like researching, and I was alert. Even prior to this, I knew about star nations. I'd researched a lot about them, and I was listening to people who were having different experiences. I started learning about the different star systems and the different beings that were connected to them, and I started experiencing them. I started calling them in my meditations and stuff, and I had a pretty strong ceremony at this time, and I felt very protected, and I wasn't just like I wasn't messing around. I wasn't having too much mischievous experiences, and I started basically calling in starships, light
Yeah.
ships, I call them. They're the energetic forms of these beings or these vessels, and they would come and fly over the farm, and my parents would see them, and my family would experience them. And sometimes we would sit out, me and my mom would sit out in the farm on cots at night, like these
Yeah.
kind of cots with a metal frame, and we would just look at the cosmos at night, and we would count all the flying stars, I call them, because
Yeah.
some of them are satellites and some of them aren't satellites. And
Yeah.
one time I seen over 100 in an hour, and so like a lot of them are communicating with you, like flashing, powering up right in front of you to these big, huge luminous balls of light, and then zipping back down to
Wow.
small and darting around the sky and stuff. Oh, I have some great stories to talk about the different ships that I see, moving ships and stuff, and different orbs flying and doing 90-degree turns. In northern Alberta, I have lots of experiences. North of Peace River, um, up to Red Earth. No, not Red Earth. Northern BC and northern Alberta, but mostly in northern Alberta, north of Peace River. Well, high, high prairie. No, ah,
A Grand Prairie?
no. What's north of? Well, if you go north of Peace River, you just take that highway straight north. It brings you right up to the Northwest Territories. Um,
The Wood Buffalo?
Yeah, in the Wood Buffalo National Park
Oh,
there.
okay. Yeah.
There's a couple towns up there where a lot of oil field, and I would go up there and work, and I would have experiences up there. I'll share a few of those later on. Um, so this one day in particular, so I started experiencing these different ETs, and they would come to me in my dreams. Reoccurring a few times was these blonde humanoid beings in blue suits, and they would come and land spaceship in my yard, and this would be in my dream time, but I'm actually getting a frequency here as I talk about it.
Yeah.
Confirmation. They would land in the yard, and they would walk through my wall,
Yeah.
and they would come and interact with me. And one day I was in this deep meditation, and I was just calling out to the star nations and asking them to show themselves. I want to learn more about you. I want to understand more about who you are and what you're doing here. And I guess why I'm talking lots about the farm is because I worked at the farm, but I had at this point she ended up being a partner for 7 years, and I lived in between. When I was working lots, I would just stay at the farm, but we lived at one of her mom's houses in Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
We had one beautiful old 100-year-old house, so I would spend a lot of time at the farm.
Yeah.
So this one morning, I'm in my bedroom at the farm, and my dad's going to work, and he runs out. Actually, some of my timelines might be messed up. This might even have been probably before I was with her. Anyways, this I'm just gonna kind of popcorn pick here. He runs out and he says, "You guys, Eric, wake up, wake up! You got to come outside and
Yeah.
see this." Regardless of the time, this was the experience. As I was manifesting in these meditations and stuff, he said there's something outside, you got to see it. And we went and got my mom. We go outside and there's a huge light ship floating over the farm,
Wow.
like Cessna height, like just above the trees. This massive ball of light is just slowly gliding over the farm, and it's already kind of like daylight, like the sun's already kind of still below the
Yeah.
horizon, but
Yeah.
it's getting light. It's blue out.
Yeah.
And my dad said when he first seen it, he would go to work really early in the morning. When he first seen it, he seen three or four blue lights come out of it
Yeah.
and dart out, little blue orbs. So when we got out there, this beautiful orb was right over the house, and it just slow, like super super slow, like this kind of slow, floated over the farm, and then another one appeared right here
Yeah.
over the farm. My mom got up and went to work. Like my mom got ready, she went to work.
Yeah.
She said that other light ship followed her all the way to work. She worked in Gibbons, like 15 minutes away.
Whoa.
She said that other orb followed her the whole way. And
Whoa.
it's daylight, and
Yeah.
this big light in the sky just follows her.
Hmm.
So around this time, this actually was before I was with Laurel. So I'm sometimes it's hard for me to keep track of all the different time, like
Yeah.
to keep track of when these things happen. So around, oh yeah, so this was actually even pre sawmill, these experiences. So this
Yeah.
was pre sawmill even. But it's important, and I should share a little bit more about these experiences because this was really opening me up to the to my gifts, and I knew that I could connect, and I knew now some of the things like in those teachings that I had in Richmond of what you do has a big impact on the planet. I knew that these meditations were working. I knew I could call in allies, spiritual allies. I was working with realms that I was just starting to learn about. But with this also came dark forces. And one particular evening, which really kind of changed things for a while, but it was also good. It was really good teachings. Um, I was I was doing a lot of work, and I was interacting with different star nations. They were coming to me in my dream time and stuff. And one night, I was in the bedroom, and I ended up waking up at night with extreme sickness.
Hmm.
And I could hear this humming, and I opened the window, and I was super nauseous, and I just knew intuitively that this is radiation sickness.
Whoa.
And I was getting beamed with radiation, and I could hear this humming, this, and I knew that there was a ship hovering above the house. And all I could do was open the window and stick my head out the window and
Yeah.
like gasp for breath. I
Whoa.
couldn't walk, I couldn't get up. I was like, wasn't paralyzed, but I was immobilized, and I was so thick, so sick, and I knew just intuitively that this was some sort of energy weapon, radiation. Basically, is what I thought it was, radiation sickness. And what had happened was my deceased cousin, beautiful ally. I don't know if I talked about her in in previous conversation, but one of my cousins, Lisa, she was a twin. Her sister was Carmen. Lisa passed away when she was like 23.
Hmm.
And we had a really strong spiritual connection. And this was the first time I experienced her since she had passed. She come to me and she covered me
Oh.
She came to the backside of me and she placed her both of her hands on the crown of my head, and
Hmm.
she covered me with her body, like she was spooning me from behind and
Mm-hmm.
shielding me from the top.
Wow.
And I'm fully awake and I can just feel her. She just came into my room and covered me. And as this energy is beaming down on me, I'm still super ill. She is she's totally encompassed me and she's now shielding me from this what I believe will be some sort of radiation weapon, some sort of energetic weapon that I was getting beamed down on. And I ended up staying up for quite a while, maybe like a half an hour, 40 minutes, and I just couldn't get up. I didn't want to go outside and look up. I could hear the ship. I could hear the humming
You
of.
just didn't want to see it
Honestly, I couldn't really move.
move.
I was
Wow.
and I was being attacked. I knew I was being attacked, and my cousin was healing me. She was
Yeah.
protecting me. She was guarding me from this beam, and I ended up falling asleep. And she stayed with me all night. Just the presence of her, I could just feel her and sense her. I knew for 100% that she was with me. And she stayed with me all night, and I woke up the next morning and I was perfect.
Nice.
I didn't
Beautiful.
have any illness. I had no more nausea, and I'm just like, what was going on there?
Yeah.
But my dreams were turned from about a 10, as if my dreams were at a 10, a scale of 1 to 10. I was dreaming so vivid and
Yeah.
so incredible. Like, they were so mind blowing. They turned me down to about a 2,
Holy.
completely suppressed me. This was an energetic attack. I believe up in northern BC, I was casting out this big energy field.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some pretty important work. I was pretty noticeable, I should say, up there.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot of light workers. Didn't have a lot of people up there, probably, who were working with this much energy. So I was like a very easy target, and
Mm.
and I was seen there, and they came, and they, I believe, I don't know for certain, but I think there were probably some sort of grays, some sort of malevolent grays, maybe working with the government, and they came to turn me down. But you can maybe turn me down, but you can't break the spirit.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting, and it was kind of it was part of it was traumatizing because now I have like my dream, like some of my gifts had, like, to me the dreams were such a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
They turned them down, and I'll tell you, I still never got back to that state of dreaming in that state.
Wow.
It
To
took
that
me,
level.
yeah, it took me a couple years to build it back up to where I could really work through the lucid dreaming and stuff again.
Mm-hmm.
But they really, really turned me down. And in these earlier days, so this was actually, pre-relic and stuff. And in these earlier days, I was working up in northern Alberta lots, and I would have experiences up there. Um, I would have experiences of ships, of like lights. I would take photos. I had, you know, camera. There's like kind of nice big camera, and I would get big streaks of light in my photos, and I would get orbs, fields of orbs at night, and we're just like golden orbs and blue orbs and red
Whoa.
orbs and so many orbs. I think I have some of them on my Facebook in my orb album, and so there was a lot of energy. They seemed every time I went to northern Alberta, there seemed to have I seemed to just like attract this energy.
Yeah.
A couple stories from northern Alberta. I'm up there working a couple hours north of Peace River, way off on this logging road. I'm building ice roads at this time. So I had a big snow gun on the back of a truck, and we had a couple crews. So we'd have like a daytime crew and a nighttime crew. I had a female helper with me, and we were heading out of the forest. We had been relieved, and it was about 11 at night, and we're driving out on this oil road, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
logging road, going to camp. And we're driving down a completely forested area in the middle of nowhere. Like, we're not close to any power lines. We're like in northern Alberta in the bush. All of a sudden, a huge light. Everything just turned orange, like blinker orange. You know the blinker on
Yeah.
your car, that orange.
Yeah.
The whole forest lit up. The inside
Whoa.
of the cab lit up so bright that
Wow.
you could see to like the whole inside of the cab lit up.
Yeah.
And I knew right away that it was some sort of a ship
Yeah.
and some sort of like a phenomenon. Like it was a phenomenon that happened. So I'm like slamming on the brakes. I was probably clipping at 80 or something on an ice road, you know.
Yeah.
Just straights, very smooth roads in the winter in the bush. So I'm like slowing down as fast as I can. My brakes like, trying to get on
Yeah.
the brake because I have a camera, and I know that cameras were picking up cool stuff. At this
Yeah.
point, I'd taken a lot of photos of cool stuff that the eyes can't see. And my coworker is like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you stopping?" And I said, I'm stopping to get a photo. I'm going to start taking photos of this. She was choked. She was pissed off. She didn't want me to stop.
Yeah.
So I came to a complete stop.
Was she like scared because of the
Yeah,
lights?
she
Yeah.
was
She's
scared.
like,
She,
don't stop.
yeah, she's like, don't stop. What
No,
was
don't
that?
get out.
I said, I probably said it must be a
Yeah. Yeah.
spaceship. So I jump out and I started taking photos. I never did get anything,
Yeah.
but then we get back in the car and drive to town and the following days or whatever, we had like a small crew with this company. And one evening, we're all went to the pub to eat dinner, and I shared these stories with them.
Yeah.
And she got so mad. I said, "Look, guys, we were in the middle of the bush coming out, and there was a massive light. There were no vehicles. Like we're literally in the center of the forest."
Yeah.
And the light was so bright it didn't come from anything, and it illuminated the whole forest plus the inside of the cab.
Wow.
And she was complete cognitive dissonance. She got absolutely actually mad, and she left the table. She wouldn't hear it. She didn't want to associate herself with this kind of woo.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty cool experience. One experience I had up there.
Yeah, I've had a few experiences similar to that where there's a light so bright that it lights up like the whole ground
Right?
around just for like a brief moment.
Yeah, like a flash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like longer than a flash.
Hmm.
Yeah.
This was like a flash. Like it didn't stay on. It was just like woof.
Yeah.
Super interesting. So I'm kind of getting all over the place. So let's now. So I wanted to touch on like the different types of ETs and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Can we take a break?
you want, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Take a quick one and get into that?
yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.